to become emotional about safety. People's lives matter. People's families matter. Our communities matter.
A reference to home is an important part of caring. We all can relate to family members, and when a breadwinner gets injured or hurt, or that person's health is affected, that again is very traumatic for a home.
I think the whole notion of safety is intensely personal. Every single one of us has got loved ones at home waiting for us to come home. So it was an opportunity again to reflect, I think, on just how many colleagues we've lost in the industry. Even last year, our best year, was still 81 of our colleagues that lost their lives. And if you're thinking about the intense personal loss that there is in so many families.
At a personal level, I think it was great to see most of our member CEOs participating in the heartfelt conversations process and the conversation itself, sharing, learning, engaging, and most of all understanding that health and safety is not a competitive issue. It's something that we all want for every single one of our workers, ultimately getting every person home safely every day.
It was a really important conversation because it was very much a watershed conversation. As you know, when we adopted the milestones in 2013, our focus as the CEOs was around processes and systems and technology in a big way. And this was very much a realization that processes and systems and technology can only take us so far, but we have to focus on leadership. And that's why I call it Watershed, because that was then the discussion around what's our leadership role in the achievement of zero harm? How do we use that as a pull to drive improvement in performance?
I think the conversations that we had were quite specific, trying to get into CEOs looking at each other in the eyes and having a real conversation about, fatalities are about people when they affect families. We know the impact. As we know in South Africa, at least between 5 and 10 is what a mine worker supports beyond just the immediate family. So, these conversations are about people, and CEOs particularly have a role to play in this, and in fact have probably the biggest influence being the leaders.
I was also humbled by the fact that, in all industries, you generally come together when there's a crisis, but to come together when we have seen a reduction in fatalities specifically, over the last decade, but to come together knowing that that reduction is not good enough, and that what we need now, instead of resting on our laurels and to be comfortable, is now looking at how do we create that step change.
I think ultimately as CEOs, we are actually the chief safety officers of the organization. We may have a function called, sustainability, but you are the chief safety officer. And if you understand and you take that responsibility in that way, in as much you are looking after strategy, you are looking after all other aspects of driving the sustainability of the business, the ultimate responsibility of every life in the organization is your responsibility.
For me, as leaders in the industry, that responsibility starts and stops with us. We are the ones that set the tone from the top. My view, we have to be seen, we have to be heard, and we have to be felt. As one of the colleagues put it, we have to show up. It's that commitment from the top to play a leading and more meaningful role in assisting the industry on our journey towards zero harm.
I think it starts right at the top. The simple fact of the matter is when the CEO is actively engaged and driven and is showing real, visible, felt leadership, it gets inculcated into the strategies and goals of the companies at board level, at management level, into the performance management systems of the companies. And so it then ultimately works through the entire organization. And ultimately, it helps drive everyone's behavior as to what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And it starts right at the top, right with the CEOs. And I think that's why the heartfelt conversations and the strategies that we've been developing, Khumbul'ekhaya, are very much focused on the leadership part of how we drive improvements in safety and health.
We know that CEOs actually dictate what's happening in an organization, that they actually lead from the top. We determine the culture. We are the tastemakers in an organization. So it's important that we bring the right message over in the organization. We also know that we can do organizational change. For that reason, all the CEOs realize that health and safety actually start with the CEOs in South Africa.
Now, bringing it back to Khumbul'ekhaya, why do we have to lead it as CEOs? It's simply because people don't just listen to our words. They look at our actions, and frankly, that creates a sense of agency around the health and safety of our individuals.
There's no silver bullet in terms of trying to progress down this journey to eliminating fatalities and zero harm. It's multi-dimensional, but I think you've got to think holistically, and it ultimately is the glue that actually brings everything together so that things are aligned and that they enable each other to actually get the outcomes that we want.
I think that the difference here is the focus on leadership, the focus on how do we make this a shared value, the focus on how do we have a holistic approach that looks beyond the simple things that we've traditionally looked at, looking at circumstances that lead to behavior, cultural differences. And then lastly, I think the real important thing is about the courage to learn and share with each other.
So it's a beautiful concept, and I think it's a crucial concept that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and we should now start changing things. And if there's danger to people, then you should act to it, and you should do something about it, and you should pay attention to it, and you should spend money on it. So I think that's crucial, that this has been thought through and has been implemented and is being carried on with.
It is necessary that we implement Khumbul'ekhaya. It is necessary that we all, I'm talking about the CEOs, I'm talking about all the employees, I'm talking about all stakeholders, unions, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, government, and everybody in the industry to ensure that we rally behind Khumbul'ekhaya. Why? Because we have set milestones for ourselves as an industry that we want in the coming 2 years to eliminate fatalities in the industry.
The focus for the next couple of years is around the elimination of fatalities, because there's a recognition that the agencies are different that result in fatalities vis-a-vis injuries, is one aspect. The other recognition as well is that the safety and health are given equal importance.
Khumbul'ekhaya is about, remember that everybody that walks in the morning, it is our responsibility that they actually go back home to their loved ones.